The game is in the worst state ever. The game went downhill. Air battles are in bad position. Too fast. No more skill-based. Like they used to be. It all started with the temporary mixed MM implemented back in the day. And the last bit was reducing time limit from 60 minutes to 25 minutes, which forces the battles end too soon. I have not touched RRB battles since that. There is just no point anymore. Ground RB is pretty much ruined now too. Battles go by too fast. I do not remember playing for longer than 15 minutes anymore. No more close, clutch games. Just an arena shooter, small maps with no ability to flank at all. Even when you flank, the reward is poor compared to people who rush into middle, kill one tank, die, and repeat. All the map changes have destroyed the whole tactical approach, as it forces players to go brawl up close with every tank, even TDs like Nashorn, Stur Emil, and so on. Additionally, the sound design is at its worst ever. If I had the chance, I would gladly return to the old pre-1.43 sounds. They were 10 times better than what we have now. At this stage, personally, I cannot hear anything during battles, as it is just one big messy ball of random sounds with no information at all. I cannot tell how far away shots are being taken. I cannot hear any directional sound. I cannot hear any engine sounds, even at 30 ms. No falling bomb sounds, to the point it is absurd. Graphics are worse too. There is just too much flickering textures, bad textures on maps. E.g. Winter Finland, the south side on Sea Capture Point is unplayable, because you cannot render the rocks on the opposite side even when looking directly at them, and people can see your tanks through rocks because they are not rendered for them. There is a lot of rendering mistakes. Tanks disappearing behind fences, no rendering of objects, too slow rendering of tanks when coming around a corner, etc. The point is, I cannot hear nor see anything during battles anymore. I had so many occasions where other players were just ramming into my tank because they could not hear or see me either. Visual and sound design went backwards 10 years. Maps are too restricted. They are creating one-way corridors with no more possibilities to move and play freely. Few years ago, I enjoyed the game so much more. I could even bring in nice score. In the War Thunder of today, I'm happy to be in middle of the scoreboard, because my game style is no more supported and rewarded by the game. I always enjoyed staying alive as long as possible in single tank. Nowadays, you are rewarded for losing your tank. You gain score for being hit and dying. It is sad for me to see War Thunder in this state. I enjoyed War Thunder since 2013, but as it is now, I am not sure if I can enjoy it any longer. All my friends left the game 1 or 2 years ago. They would like to enjoy War Thunder again, but we just cannot. Can we please bring back War Thunder from 2015? Maybe Classic War Thunder server, and the addition of AirRB EC mode? Because the development team has degraded the game since its start just too much. Anyone wants the old War Thunder back too? So the interesting thing about this post is it's a classic example of a person who is massively burnt out, and then also at the same time just throwing around random things without really engaging the brain because they're just frustrated. And that is what happens so much when it comes to War Thunder, because of the games being around for a long time, because people's life situations changing, because a bunch of different stuff going on. A lot of the annoyance or disagreements comes out in the game instead of in other areas. The simple thing is, right, and this is like the core thing. If you ain't enjoying something, it's better to go find stuff that you are enjoying. Just because you played something in the past and enjoyed it but don't enjoy it now doesn't mean that you have to stick to it. Sunk cost fallacy is literally a fallacy. You know, that at the end of the day, it is up to you to break it if you feel like you're in that mood and all around those areas. And this type of mentality will never ever lead to a nice place. And at the same time, the idea of even thinking with like rose-tinted glasses on that War Thunder in 2015 was better than it is now is just nuts. Especially when it comes to graphically, right? Maps and stuff. Like, there have been so many maps that have had to be reworked, remastered, whatever you want, from air and also ground, because they were fundamentally busted. And if you just left the map to play itself, one team would win instantly every time. Hokkaido was a great example of this, where Hokkaido, if you just let it run, one team would always win because of how it was set up. Then, if you have a look at ground, think about how many maps have come and gone when it comes to ground and how many things have been reworked. And they haven't just been reworked willy-nilly for no reason. It's because they were fundamentally broken in certain areas and had to be redone. Sounds as well. Obviously, we take the piss out of the sound man a lot because he's all over the place a lot of the time. But the actual core of the sounds is so much better than it used to be. Once again, people just think about one or two sounds that they used to hear in the game and go, I want to hear that back. Well, fair enough. You can just use sound mods and you can just get them back in if you want to. But also, the overall sounds is set up better than it used to be. One of the things that I'd say is if people are having an issue with their audio, it's time to rebalance your audio. So go into your volume settings and move them around. Because if you haven't moved your volume settings around in, 9 years, which is when this post is from, of course the audio is going to change over time. Of course it's going to improve. You can also still play TDs. You can also flank on a lot of maps. Some of them, yes, it's a lot harder to do, but you have to take more defensive positions than offensive positions. That is kind of the way to approach these things. All of these type of issues can be solved from an individual point of view. What they can't be solved is from a actual, kind of company point of view. Because if you're saying stuff like things need to be better, things need to be, more forward, things need to be in a greater place, then that ends up what's happening. There's not really a lot you can do with that because everybody will have a different opinion on that. I still remember in 2015, stuff like, rockets not having damage models or not having penetration characteristics, so they would just overpressure tanks even if they got near them. Stuff like HVARs and things like that. I remember heavy tanks just dominating a bunch of stuff. I remember falling through maps. I remember naval not existing. I remember, a lot of dogfights where a lot of people have these great nostalgia glasses about like jets and how they used to be, where it was a battle of skill. And yes, it was a lot more skilled than it was now because of the point and click nature of high tier, but also at the same time, it was still one vehicle ruled the roost and everybody else was trying to fight it. It was incredibly annoying and still the same issues as you have with every top tier in existence. By the way, the person who wrote this article, guess what they used to do? They used to spam the Jumbo, which used to be at 4-7, annihilating everything in its path, and also the Chino 2, another famously OP broken vehicle. So what you have is just a person who just wishes to go back to a time where they could just hammer people into the dust with overpowered stuff. And that's really what it all comes down to, if you have a look at all of these different things. And it just sucks every time when you actually look into, who the people are, where they're at, because they would feel and be so much better if they just took some time off and just chilled and relaxed. Because the game isn't in the worst state ever. There's so much stuff going on in War Thunder. There's so many opportunities now. And the economy itself really isn't that big of an issue anymore. The opportunities that people have to research different stuff and play different things that they want to is there. There's more nations than, whenever there was. There's more events going on. There's more content coming in. There's more free stuff that you can get nowadays. There's so many different things you can do. But instead, what is focused on is all of the, I suppose, general negatives. One of the things about air, right, if you actually brought back the 60-minute timer. You know why they got rid of the 60-minute timer? For many different reasons, but the main one was because people were abusing it to be able to get ridiculously high RP costs, RP rewards, and also doing stuff like crafting events, by getting in a bomber, bombing a base, and then going away for 60 minutes and being able to get a ton of boxes from it. The other thing as well is because a lot of maps, the way that they're set up, they would stagnate, and there was a lot of units that were around the place that you just weren't able to deal with. You weren't able to actually destroy unless you had very specific aircraft. Nowadays, with things being a bit more uniform, it means that every aircraft can actually have a role in the game. It can actually do something instead of just being sat there not being able to do anything, which a lot of vehicles had, which is why many of these critiques are vehicle specific and depend on what you were playing at the time. What I want you to do is I want you to go back 10 years. And you can do this nowadays, it's great. Just go on YouTube and have a look at War Thunder videos from 9 or 10 years ago. And you'll see what the game looks like. And you'll see what it played like. I was around at the time. And the actual setup that we have in War Thunder now is so much better than that time. Not even looking at all of the bugs that exist in the game. Not even looking at the fact that matchmaking a lot of the time you'd be sat there for 5, 10, 15 minutes waiting for a game. You know, not even the events, right? Not even the events that you would get told on the day that they started to happen. Because that used to happen all the time in War Thunder 2. None of those things. Just the general gameplay, the general look of the game, and definitely the maps are in a much better position than they are before. And if anybody says anything different, they just have rose-tinted glasses on, and they're just looking at the past. A lot of the historical maps were completely broken in the game, and a lot of other maps had a ton of other issues too. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Schnitzel Stroker, Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, B. Young, Opium Prime, Masonocrat, Lafouche, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.